Hello and welcome to the fourth episode, fourth season of interviewing the best and emerging hip hop artists, garden interests from homestead to commercial ag, and bourbon and whiskey distillers. My name is Joe Skibbie, and this is Beats, Beds, and Browns. We're pleased to continue our live stream interviews for this, our fourth season, allowing us to interview talented folks from throughout the globe. Our focus will always be Chicagoland, but there are so many talented individuals outside of the region that we'll look to expand our reach. This year, our upcoming schedule includes Paul Coughlin from Taco Nick Distillery on April 17th at 7 p.m., Glenda George Green with Baby Green's Family Farm on April 24th at 7 p.m., Joel Q, the champion of Chicago hip hop, May 1st at 7 p.m., and Jesse Stewart Jr. of Alexander James Whiskey, May 8th at 7 p.m. Let's not forget our mission to distribute 100,000 seed kits over the next 10 years. We want to introduce people to growing their own food and realizing how easy it is to get started. Whether you've got acres or just a balcony, you can start growing your own food. To date, we've given out over 2,500 seed kits across the country. Currently on our website, you can choose from dill, acorn squash, or pumpkin. Register, and we'll send those anywhere in the contiguous 48. Tap into our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Beats, Beds, and Browns, or find us on your streaming platform of choice as we upload these videos following their live stream. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube to get notified of our content releases. And please, if you're watching, participate in the comment section throughout this video. We want to hear from you. And welcome to those of you joining us after the live taping. We see you. Get ready for a flavorful journey as we proudly welcome Dallas Glazik, CEO of Silver Tree Beer Spirits. Join us for an exploration of craft, passion, and the perfect blend of not only corn, wheat, and barley, but also beets, beds, and browns. Dallas is an award-winning distiller and a true force behind Silver Tree Beer and Spirits. With a dedication to creating unique and unforgettable flavors, Glazik has carved a niche for him and his brothers in the world of craft distilling. On today's episode, he'll share his insights, inspiration, and the secrets behind crafting the perfect libations. Whether you're a hip-hop head, gardener, or spirits enthusiast, we welcome you to tune in to satisfy your curiosity about the art of crafting beverages. This episode promises to be a delightful blend of education and entertainment. With that, I'm bringing Dallas Glazik to the stage. Dallas, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Joe, for having me. So I'm here at the distillery in Paxton, Illinois, and probably have my beverage, my own. So hopefully everyone else is drinking and enjoying listening to this episode.
All right. So, I was mentioning doing a little bit of research. Talk to me about the Glazik family and your history of farming.
Yeah. So we are fifth generation farmers here in Illinois. So that means the original family farm started back in 1869. Where we're at, and they've been farming the same farm ever since. And we decided my parents became organic farm back in 2002 as a way to value add their crops. So at that particular time, it was whenever Roundup and a lot of crop genetics were coming out, and so it was either get big and compete with neighbors to get more ground to make more money, or to specialize. And since in our particular area, we're surrounded by close family and friends, and so we did not want to compete with getting more land with family and friends. So we decided to specialize, and parents went organic. Like I said, got our certification in 2002, and it really kind of put a mindset in the rest of us kids. So owners of Silver Tree are myself, my oldest brother, Will Glazik, my just older than me brother, Clayton Glazik, and a younger sister, Abby. And so by my parents getting involved and finding value-added products, that's exactly what we decided to do. And we are one of the 4 distilleries in the state of Illinois that actually distill with all the grain that they grow on their own farm. So it's a nice little fun avenue to say that, we are now farming for whiskey and not just sending it to a grain elevator and watching her go. So the pot behind me here, it's a 500-gallon hybrid pot still. and at its max capacity will produce 1 barrel of whiskey per day, and that takes about 1,000 pounds of grain. And with our diverse crop rotation on 400-acre farm, which is the original farmstead that my family's been farming, it'll take all the grain that farm can produce on a max capacity. Once we get this still completely up and running, where it's 1 barrel a day, it'll take all that grain. So
What do you guys anticipate that taking? Is that a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan? How long until you're able to fully utilize?
Waiting on my local welder to get some fermentation tanks, and then so it'll probably be within a 2-year plan
Nice.
that we'll be at the barrel a day. And since 2019, we've actually expanded the farm, so we're now just shy of 1,000 acres, and so grain wise, we can get up to 5 barrels a day with all the grain that we produce. So that's our long-term plan, is to get to where every single grain we were growing goes through whiskey. But right now, yeah, we're still having stuff go through commodity markets, and as well as supplying other brewers and distillers across the Midwest with good food quality grain.
Is that a niche that you guys, have become a main provider to other distilleries throughout the region?
Yeah, we've been providing quite a bit of other distilleries around the Midwest, Michigan down to Indiana, of course, Illinois, and the Chicago market for sure, as well as all the way down outside of St. Louis. And we got started selling to Old Bakery Beer Company in Alton, Illinois, and we are their sole wheat provider. And that's what we started in, and then what really got us was like, oh, we can be making our own products. And so originally we thought we should go into the brewing industry because all of us like drinking beer and everything like that. So we're like, yeah, we can make beer. And but then we quickly realized that beer goes bad and whiskey doesn't. And actually, if it sits and if it doesn't sell, it gets better. So we decided we went with the whiskey route, and a lot of nice little fun history stuff. Like Illinois actually had more whiskey distilleries than anywhere else in the U.S. and headquarters predominantly out of Peoria. Peoria alone had 73 distilleries. So here in Illinois, the soil just breeds whiskey. So that's what we're supposed to be doing.
That's crazy. You touched on a number of points of historical relevance with whiskey, not only as a store of value, but then how whiskey and turned into bourbon, right? Not only some of the legal requirements, but then what I heard is as they shipped it down, once it was a store of value into New Orleans, et cetera.
I mean, pre-prohibition, 1 in 5 farmers had a still, and they would actually whiskey must have been a lot cheaper because they would sell off their surplus of grain until the markets tanked, because now you have too much supply versus demand. And so they would take their leftovers and they would distill it, because mice aren't going to eat on whiskey like they would on corn. It's a lot cheaper to buy a barrel than it is to put up a corn crib or a grain bin to store it. And so it was a way of condensing their storage, and they would take their buggies and run that into town just the same as they would a wagon of corn. They just take it into a barrel and sell it that way as any other ag-based commodity.
I love it. The outlaw history of corn storage and value creation.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even outlaw. That was just regular business.
Sure. Yeah, pre-prohibition, of course.
Yeah.
So you guys touched on another couple innovative principles in terms of going organic or chemical pesticide free way in advance of that becoming popular and covered in the news and even advocated for. What was the primary driver of your parents to make that decision?
Yeah, so the primary driver was because at that particular time, to raise a family of 4 kids and work on the farm and have that be the primary source of income, mom was wanting to stay home and give us all a good background and child upbearing. So dad was working in the fields, and 400 acres at that particular time with the ag advancement was not going to cut it for a family of 6. And so that's why they decided to specialize instead of fighting with neighboring farms and taking on more debt to get bigger and get more headaches. They decided just to specialize on what they had, and that way they could make the margins that they needed to provide for their family.
And specialize you did. I mean, there's precise
Yeah.
strains and things curated over time that are optimal for your environment. And that obviously is what creates the unique situation of you guys producing everything in Illinois up to and including the Cooper and the barrels.
Yeah. Yeah. And so a lot of that happened with like our grain that we've been selecting and breeding. So because we switched to organic, we weren't buying traits for seed, and so there's probably some people out there that don't understand traits. And so if you have a particular hybrid of grain that is bred to produce a large amount of yield, which is the most common form of crops throughout the entire state of Illinois and Midwest. They don't always breed true, but you also you have to pay the person who has the rights to that trait. But there are public varieties that are open pollinated that will actually breed themselves, and you can keep that and clean those seeds and replant them. Really, in the 80s and 90s is whenever that phased out, as those ag technologies and in particular Roundup really started blossoming. If you wanted to have Roundup ready crops, you had to buy Roundup ready traits in order to use it. And so it's been phased out since then, but there's still some pockets that are utilizing it. And we're one of those, and been just keeping the best parts of the field and planting those year after year after year. We actually lowered in our wheat, for example, we actually lowered our protein content. Our wheat makes terrible bread. It is low in gluten. It does not bind. If you want just a floppy biscuit, that's the wheat you want to do.
Nobody wants
it. However, that since our wheat was not putting in the energy for those excess proteins, it was replacing it with extra carbohydrates. So a standard bottle of vodka is going to be roughly 4 pounds of wheat. If wheat was the main source. So if you think of like a bottle of Grey Goose or Kettle One, you're going to be about 4 pounds of wheat in a bottle of vodka. Ours, since it has more carbohydrate based, is actually 3.2 pounds. So we were unknowingly breeding better alcohol based grains that it just took a couple of kids to find out how to make alcohol whenever they're teenagers, and before you know it, you found a recipe to a business.
Fantastic. And talk about that, because I know it was more than just playing in the fields, right? You guys did some chemical science with the University of Illinois and worked through different programs to determine what the makeup is going to be, and not nutrition, but what the components of that alcoholic beverage were.
Yeah. So like with the University of Illinois, we work with them on a corn flavor study. So that was really fun. We took, I'm going to, you're calling me on the spot. I think it was 6 or 9 different varieties of corn. So that'd be yellow corn, which everyone is, of course, familiar with. We used red corn, blue corn, orange corn, white corn, and ran them all as raw distillate. So it was all at 100 proof, all unaged, and starting to categorize what these different colors of corn, because that as that corn produces a different color, it's going after different minerals and nutrients within the soil profile. And those, and especially being open pollinated, those that particular plant is not necessarily thinking like a hybrid does of just producing yield, just produce carbohydrates. That plant is thinking, what do I need to give my seed the best chance for it to survive the next year? And so they open pollinated corns will actually pick up different types and different minerals. So you might have one that's a little higher in potassium, one that's a little higher in manganese, and one that's a little bit higher in other minerals that they add towards flavor on the end product. And with a lot of these open pollinated and in particular colored corns target different minerals. And so we worked with the University of Illinois to try to isolate out what these corn varieties can then give in flavor. So we were finding that like red corns, so like Bloody Butcher that we use in our Cow Creek bourbon, comes off a little more earthy. I like to describe it a little bit more like a carrot cake instead of a cornbread. And so you get a little bit more of those baking spices coming in. And it's not that, necessarily sweet upfront buttery cornbread like a lot of your bourbons and mass produced down in Kentucky taste like. But then you get things like blue corn, it can throw off like a pear and plum flavor right out of the gate. And so you're not getting that typical bourbon cherry, you're getting a bourbon plum instead.
For everybody who's just seen the corn at the grocery store, right? There's things like glass gem. You mentioned the blood red. There's ruby red. I've seen whole ears of blue corn. And what you're saying is they're pulling different things from the soil, and that's what's giving a unique flavor profile. So once you identify those, is that an additive, or is that just the nature of your soil is going to grow one better than the other? Or like, manganese, where does it pick up that? Like,
yeah, like they will always be a little bit off. So we did that study. We also brought in some other distillers for that panel that also worked with these corns. So one of which is Wood Hat Spirits outside of Columbia, Missouri. He's been distilling a lot with open heirloom corns, and his Bloody Butcher, because it has its own terroir to Columbia, Missouri, and those soils taste different than ours, but they still have that same trend. So like a Bloody Butcher will still have that overall umbrella of flavor different than a yellow corn, but they will all be a little bit different if that unique farmer's picking the grain and distilling with it. Our rye whiskey, it's been a really fun one. We have some barrels that were a little bit wetter that growing year that come off really sweet and earthy, kind of you get like a sweet clover hay kind of.
Talk to me about the wet barrel. Do you mean wet going in or wet?
This is the growing season for that. Yep. And so that comes out, a little more sweet and earthy that way. And then the rye I'm distilling now, we were in a drought condition for most of that rye crop, and it is bringing out more acetaldehyde member 2 butanol. And if you don't know what those compounds bring to the flavor profile, it smells like green apple and tastes like buttery bananas. And so I'm hoping that as it ages 4 years, it's going to come out like an apple tart, which is way different than the sweet clover, hay, earthy ones that we have currently out on the shelf. And then we have some weird barrels that are minty and it tastes like a Girl Scout Thin Mint cookie. And I don't know why, but
sure. And that's a flavor profile that has variability year over year, or is that something that you can grow and curate and create additional years of subsequent similar tastes?
Right now, we're going to be sticking with that variability until we can isolate exactly. If you want green apple smelling rye whiskeys, you need to grow it in a drought-like condition, which won't necessarily be beneficial for us because we source from our farm, but that research we're working on could be very beneficial for other distilleries. That way they can isolate different farms within a region and say, oh, well, Indiana, you had a drought. I'm going to source more rye from you guys to try to keep my flavor profile.
Got it. So it's not necessarily responsive. We identify a drought coming. There was a drought in this region and we purchased from there. Yep. I'm going to pause real quick. We got 2 live stream viewers. If you guys have any questions, submit them in the comments. We'll get them answered for you. We've got Dallas here, a wealth of knowledge.
And I can geek down some rabbit holes. We haven't even started talking about barrels and wood yet. My background, I'm a biologist, so I can run down a bunch of rabbit holes.
Absolutely. So speaking of life on the farm, are you guys also with livestock, and how many different crops do you cover over the acreage? And talk to me a little bit about the makeup of other life.
Yeah, so we're about 12 different crops that we grow on our acreage and have livestock. Our spent grains go to feed pigs and cattle. So hopefully going to brand out some bourbon belly pork that can be nice roasted up and I've been eating myself. It's delicious. Highly recommend. But yeah, so we got everything because the best way to get rid of those pesky vacations is to have livestock. So you throw in those livestock, so you don't have to take a vacation for the rest of your days.
Well, as the rest of us are out here allocating and finding other sources for bourbon, we'll try not to cry for you with your unending supply of inputs and outputs.
Yep. And what we've noticed, production is never the problem when it comes to anything. So, like I was saying earlier, we can produce now up to 5 barrels a day, and current rate we're at 1.5 barrels a week. So, and we can scale this one up to 1 barrel a day. So production's never the problem. It's just what you do afterwards.
Creates a ton of challenges, I'm sure, with finding the new oak barrels, storage of those barrels. We've seen, barrel rot or barrel mold that comes in certain stored environments, impacting some of the larger distillers. Is that something that you guys worry about as well?
Worry about, yes. Experience it, no. The other than the storage, yeah. So our barrel storage is really running into some tight spaces here in town. So we're looking to bond out some additional storage back on the farm and store more whiskey barrels directly there. So.
Ever get a little corn smut or huitlacoche from all the crops? Or
I mean, yeah, if you want some, I can hook you up with some corn smut. That happens.
We had some, and I read it was a delicacy. I was like, "What is that?" And we researched it, and I chickened out. I couldn't eat it, but
couldn't eat it. It ain't too bad. It's the texture, I guess, for me, like the flavor tastes like any other mushroom, but the texture, sometimes how it's prepared, can get a little goopy. But
fair enough. So this is a family affair, right? You've got one brother handling marketing and another is the chemical scientist, and your head distiller CEO. How do you guys all get along? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, just like every other family business, there's times where, we all get along. We can have a great time. There's also times we want to throw punches at each other. So the best part about it is all of us know that at the end of the day, we're still going to be going to mom and dad's house for Thanksgiving. So whatever issue you can't resolve by then, she won't tolerate it. So
nice.
Yep. Yeah. It is. Yeah. There's 4 of us now in the business. Yeah. Like I was saying, my oldest brother, Will, then Clayton, and then myself, and then younger sister, Abby. So we brought her in. She's going to she's got more of a bar background. So she'll be handling over our tasting room and stuff like that as we're building that out.
Fantastic. And
we like to do a lot by our hands. So we've been around since 2017, but we're laying our own brick for the bar and all that stuff, cutting our own concrete.
Awesome. Yeah, that's
just in January, brother Will, he was trenching a hole underneath this still to reconnect a sewer line that decided to break on us. So we had to cut holes in the concrete, and he looked like he was a World War I soldier digging by hand.
Trenches,
yeah.
No boredom going on at Glazik Farm, huh?
No boredom.
Good to hear. And one of the things that as we dig deeper into the homestead and commercial agriculture environments is we're learning it's very challenging to make a living off of agriculture at whatever scale. But what we've seen is that, ag tourism, merchandising, branding additional products, as well as growing crops and managing livestock. So can you talk about over the 5 generations of how that evolved and how, you guys have all those different opportunities now?
Yeah. So we were blessed to have all those opportunities. Over the 5 generations, the farm basis was always there. So we were always having livestock. And so we can take our waste and make that a value add. We can take our product and make it a value add. So that's always been there. And the marketing is where we're really blessed to have Clayton and my sister both have a background in that. And so they're helping us out there. And the biggest that we're going from, instead of more the ag tourism base, because let's be honest, there's times Illinois, March touring a farm that has livestock, it's not that pretty. It's muddy, it's a mess, and you don't want to have anything to show off anyway. So why focus in on that regard whenever we can focus in on the farming practices that we do on our branding side. So we actually trademarked Take a Shot at Climate Change for our one of our campaigns, because we found out that even with our CO2 emissions from distilling the alcohol, we have what's called there's a carbon intensity score is how that's all ran off of. And that is basically looking at how much carbon you are emitting per bushel of grain that gets produced. And average farmer in the U.S. is sitting about 29, and we are actually at a -7. So we are sequestering more carbon than we are emitting with our farming practices. And calculating that out, because we can, to a shot of whiskey here, it is 1.2 miles of a standard car offset per shot of our whiskey. So we decided, take a shot at climate change and drink for a good cause.
I love it. I love it. It's incredible to see, again, the principles that your parents put in place decades ago that are now not only becoming popular, but also proving to be revenue positive for large entity farms.
And we get questions all the time of, especially with the carbon stuff now, like, how do I, get a better carbon intensity score? And I'm like, well, we have a extremely good one. What you need to do is plant cover crops. You need to diversify your crop rotation. Don't just do corn, beans, and go to Florida for the rest of the year. So adding livestock's a big one on that, because you're incorporating that carbon that runs through the livestock back onto the farm. So we get asked a lot of questions about that. And then we also get the perks of running it through whiskey.
And you joke about not being able to take a vacation, but I mean, do you guys rotate family vacations or shut it down all at once, or is it very rare?
No, I haven't been on a long vacation, so more than a weekend, since my honeymoon. That was in 2018. But I also don't like to travel, so I don't sleep well in hotels, so it works
okay
out.
Nice. Well, an understanding family environment there to support that, and we appreciate the hard work you're doing on behalf of the environment, as well as the bottoms of our glasses. May we never see them.
We always keep everything close to home is our big thing, and one product that we're really proud and like to stand behind. Unfortunately, we are currently out of. We had an early release of our Distillers brand. We had 96 bottles, and that is the first 100% sourced Illinois whiskey since Prohibition. So the tree was sourced in Illinois, the barrel was made in Illinois, the grain was grown in Illinois, the distilled in Illinois, the water was Illinois, even the labels were made right across the alley from me here in Illinois. We had 96 bottles and sold out of that in 21 minutes. It's
incredible story and incredible focus on local. Talk to me about where our viewers can source Silver Tree Spirits. Is it something they buy online, or they have to travel to Central Illinois, or you guys have a little bit wider distribution?
Yeah, so we work with 2 distributors here in Illinois. So Kerner Distribution for any downstate listeners. Essentially, we go from Peoria to Kankakee and down the rest of the state with them. And then we also work with High Road Spirits up in the Chicago-based area. So anywhere that they are providing, we can get to. So we have, any Chicago-based listeners can get our product, and if not, they can reach out to us, and we can to help make sure that they get in connection with a supplier that works with one of our distributors, and then also will say, we're getting our open to the public hours worked on once this bar gets built, and once that happens, we'll be open here, and we'll be open for anyone to walk in and buy a product, try a sample, take a tour. Our building was an old Ford car garage dealership for most of its life, so we windowed in the old parts counters, so anyone that walks in the front can actually see the entire operation. So,
man, that's great. Preserving history along the way.
Yep.
That's incredible.
I feel like a little.
That, my email ends up on that grand opening list. With the curation and the development of the proprietary strain of corn that you guys grow, is that something that is also turned into a revenue source, or do you share that with other farmers openly, or how does curating something like that over time benefit the farm outside of whiskey production?
Yeah, no, we've been selling grain to other farmers for longer than we've been making whiskey. So we have a lot of farmers that will pick it up, and they'll, yeah, we've worked with some flour mills even. So some of our like Bloody Butcher corn can actually be turned into cornbread because it runs through Janie's mill in Ashcombe, Illinois. So yeah, we try to spread the love and send it out, as well as the to take a shot at climate change campaign. We're actually working with other distillers up in the Chicago area and around, that they're putting those on their labels now. Since they're sourcing grain from us, we can correlate how much their offset is for their particular products. So it's, yeah, we don't like to keep anything just ourselves. And why sit here and play poker when we can show our cards and just have fun and drink a glass of whiskey instead? So
Right. I like that. Put your cards on the table and allow for collaboration so the best hand wins.
Yep.
Speaking of different partnerships and other organizations that have assisted along the way, one of the things I saw in some of the articles online was that you guys received a Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Grant, or SARE grant.
Mhm.
We applied for one of those as well and weren't fortunate enough to get it, but there's resources out there to help explore new opportunities for farmers and growers at any size, really. Talk to me about how that helped understand and develop the whiskey brand.
Yeah, so that particular grant was what we used to fund that corn research study, and we partnered with the Artisan Grain Collaborative. They are a Midwest organization that promotes the use of artisan grain. So that's the use of open heirloom varieties of corn, as well as varieties of rye and wheat. And they've been pushing more flavor-based studies and assistance with grants. And so, yeah, by getting that grant, allowed us to run that study and run it through U of I with some actual true researchers. It's not just me and my brothers sitting here making whiskey and saying which one tastes best. Like, we're actually running it through I don't even know the exact name of it, but it's a fancy little machine that samples out the different compounds and tells you even what the flavors are, and then compare that to the sampling panelist and pick out what they were getting and exactly what compound was causing that flavor, and then exactly what that variety of corn was bringing up to cause that compound. So yeah, that's a lot more than what we can do. So the use of a SARE grant allowed us to do that. Big proponent, and also, yeah, working with another nonprofit like Artisan Grain Collaborative helps push and move those models. I know there's more SAREs and other grant opportunities. The Illinois Stewardship Alliance just had a big statewide grant, and quite a bit of Chicago-based food co-ops actually got that. So that was a grant focused in just localizing food production. I know some farmers that got that one to put up new hoop houses, put up new freezer systems so they can send more pork to local food markets. And so there's a lot of resources for promoting and pushing all these sustainable and regenerative based farm and food based product.
Absolutely, definitely post-COVID and the Post-Inflationary Act realized after COVID that we're too centralized in terms of our food production. And we see people across the region here in Chicagoland that have just decided one day that they're going to never had farming experience, and now they're going to grow. And they start out as maybe large gardeners and turn into small commercial farms, and they're making it happen with the support of some of those dollars. So
yeah, the USDA actually, for farmers like that, they just passed it would have been this last farm bill, so it would have been 2020. They would have passed a urban farmers pot of funding. So there's a pot of funding there specifically for urban based farmers to get up and go and help them out.
Yeah, season one, we interviewed Earl Harris Jr., an Indiana state senator, and he drafted an urban agricultural bill for some of the undeveloped land to be able to transition that into garden space, commercial garden opportunity as well. So we're rounding third here. I want to ask about the Glenn Brandt Prize for Ag Entrepreneurism and talk a little bit about that award and what that represented to you.
Yeah, no, that award was really really nice. That was one where you had to be submitted for it, and so we weren't even the ones that put in for it. So we found out that we were getting awarded, and they got pushing, and we're really close with Brandt since. So talking with them quite a bit, but it allowed us to actually, finalize what is behind us here. So it allowed us to put down the money to work at getting a building, to channel some of that through here, as well as putting up production. So it's a farm-based grant and allow us to take our farm-based commodity and turn it into a food-based product. So can't say anything more positive about them, because they helped us get up from the ground up, and where the SARE helped us with some research and allow us for product sampling and advance us that way. Brandt allowed us to advance as a business.
And for those of you, wanting to grow your own food, looking to transition out of a desk job into something with agriculture related opportunity, it's out there. The USDA,
100% out there.
Extension. There's so many different programs out there for you to research. And Dallas, we appreciate your time in providing us with some of the insight into not only legacy farming, but your stewardship of the environment and regenerative farming, and dedication to reserving some of the history around yourself, and most importantly, providing us with a beverage that we can enjoy along the pathway. So if you have anything in closing, please take the opportunity now, promote an upcoming release, talk about anything that's a passion project for you. What I'll say is at the end of that, I'll pull you out of the waiting room, and then I'll close out the show. And if you can stick around for a minute or two, I'd love to circle back with you before we head off.
Yeah, closing comments or anything. I thoroughly enjoy what I do, and being able to wrap all my interests into it. Like I said, I farm, work as a biologist, and distill, and get to incorporate all those together and geek down some rabbit holes. So I'm always available for, people are interested and just want to chat and geek out. I'm just a cell phone call away. It's actually on our website. That's my cell on there, since we don't have a phone yet. So
fantastic. Well, reach out with your questions. Sounds like you've got someone with deep knowledge and interest in sharing, and we couldn't appreciate your sharing with us anymore, Dallas and Silver Tree Spirits. We really appreciate it. I'm going to pull you out, close out the show, and if you got a minute, I'd love to cut it up with you before you head out.
Well, thanks very much, everyone. Thanks for listening.
All right. Thanks, guys. All right. Dallas Glazik with Silver Tree Spirits. Next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m., April 17th, Taconic Distillery out of the East Coast. And then we head into Joel Q, as well as Alexander James Whiskey to close out season 4. If you are just joining Beets, Beds, and Browns and aren't familiar with what we do, we're trying to give away 100,000 seed kits. We're trying to get people to grow their own food, enjoy incredible artists in the emerging hip hop space, as well as tip back a few for a good cause. Shot to save the world is what I heard Dallas mention. So we appreciate you guys. Happy planting, and thanks for your time tonight.